Back in that bag again. Whoa, oh, yeah. Hey.
Welcome everyone to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. Today we're talking NBA training camps. They are officially underway. The Minnesota Lynx season came to a screeching halt in a maybe surprising, somewhat shocking way. And we'll discuss that and how it happened, plus the aftermath with Naphecia Collier's recent statement that she made. But most importantly, I'm excited for tonight's episode. My buddy Tate, first official guest on the podcast. Tate, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Steve. I'm excited to be part of Splash City.
Yeah, baby. All right, man. It's great. I'm so happy to have you. We're gonna have some fun. Let's grab a beverage of choice. I'm settling in with this is a Wednesday night. I got a Great Lakes Oktoberfest. Tate sporting some Gatorade. Got to stay hydrated. If you're listening in the morning,
I gotta get up early tomorrow. So being an adult.
Yeah, we got an adult. So if you're going to work in the morning and listening to this, please maybe avoid the beer, maybe a coffee, maybe a tea, something else, but settle in. This is the Splash City Basketball Podcast. All right, first let's talk about the Minnesota Lynx WNBA playoffs. They lose 3-1 in the semifinals to the Phoenix Mercury. Lots to talk about here. Very surprising. The Lynx had the top seed, home court advantage. They lose game 2 after having a 20-point lead. They lost in overtime. They had a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. Game 3, they lose that. And they got outscored by 18 in the fourth quarter of game 4. Lynx had, according to ESPN, a 96.5% chance of winning that game. But they had to do game 4 without Cheryl Reeve and Naphecia Collier. And that's kind of where I want to talk about this series, Tate. Not only the offense just evaporated, but Cheryl Reeve getting thrown out of game 3. Collier gets hurt. You know, Cheryl Reeve, I think if you followed the Lynx or know anything about Cheryl Reeve, she runs a little hot. She's pretty outspoken. But I think what happened at the end of game 3 was probably a little over the top and just felt different to me. You know, we've talked about kind of the play that upset her, and I think we both agree. But like, what did you see, or what did you think about Reeves' reaction to game 3, and then kind of how that whole series just ended up going south?
First of all, it's a bummer that the Lynx turns out they can Minnesota sports just as hard as all of our men's teams. To be up double digits going into fourth quarters and losing both games, that's your real issue. You're not executing down the stretch. Obviously, Reeve was upset about how physical the game was, and I think that's the big difference in the teams was I think the Mercury are a lot more physical than the Lynx, and I imagine that their coach, or they probably looked at what was happening, so we got one chance to beat these guys, and it's not going toe-to-toe trying to play some finesse game. Let's start pushing them around, and they got away with it, and we didn't respond.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Collier seemed to really struggle with Alyssa Thompson, like more so than I've seen her. I mean, I think everybody would kind of come with that strategy, right? So they had to have expected some physicality, but Collier just didn't seem late in games. She was their one, you know, McBride, I think, is another one that she can obviously help out, and she did in game 4 everything she could. But like, Collier just seemed a little thrown off, especially late in the games. And Thomas, to me, was like getting in her head, and there's John back and forth. Collier is usually pretty calm, collected, but yeah, they didn't seem to handle that physicality well.
Professional sports, right? They're pros.
Yep.
The other team, they notice that pushing you around and getting in your face is starting to impact your game. They're not going to stop doing that.
Right.
So you got to figure that out. In that instance, you got to do something to stem that tide, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, they look disjointed just overall. Like some of those late, I watched a lot of those fourth quarter. I think all of the games 2, 3, and 4 in the fourth quarter, and there was turnovers. I mean, overall the turnovers weren't a problem if you just looked at the box score, but it seemed like late in games there was bad turnovers, there was forced shots, shot clock violations. I talked about this in the last episode about Cheryl Reeves' teams and how her championship teams had these Hall of Famers, and it's almost more impressive to me this current iteration because they kind of have one who's MVP level, and they got a lot of great pieces around Collier. But I think these last two seasons kind of go to show you that you need big time elite players, multiple players like that to win, because if you take away Collier or she struggles, it was hard for them to generate any offense down.
Batman needs a Robin, man.
100%. I mean, McBride is usually that way. I think the other one that I really noticed late in games was Dejanay Carrington being out. So she got hurt in game 2 when they clinched against the Valkyries, but that was another important piece for them that was out. And so I think that hurt as well with their fourth quarter play and overtime play against the Mercury. But the Mercury hit shots. They got rebounds when they needed to. They got stops when they needed to. So, I mean, they just got it done. I mean, like you said, playoff basketball, they're professionals. I mean, that's the difference. So let's move to talk about Cheryl Reeve a little bit, because let's talk a little bit about the play that got her thrown out, but also just like maybe, in my opinion, a little bit of a trend developing with Cheryl Reeve. So you and I agree on that play. So, Thomas is kind of reaching, but Collier fumbles the ball a little bit. They knock knees a little, but it wasn't egregious, right? But I mean, you don't think that was a foul? I didn't really think it was a foul either. So I didn't really know what Reeve was really that upset about, other than other stuff that happened.
I watched Cheryl Reeves' video before I even saw the. And then when we were texting about it a little bit, I was like, well, I got to watch this because I guess she got really hurt. Like, this must be bad. Like, I was expecting to see something really egregious. And you and I talked about a little. I watched that play, I swear, like 10 times, trying to see what was wrong. And I don't. I think that was a basketball play. Collier fumbles that little handoff, and she gets it poked away, and the defender has every right to go for the ball.
Right.
So, like, that's the culmination of it. That's what set Reeve off and got her thrown out of the game. But then to double down at the press conference, it's just, I think doesn't look good when your team also blew it.
Right. I think there's a fine line between defending your players, sticking up for them, as coaches are going to do, and like trying to prove a point. And we see that all the time. Like that, there's a gamesmanship with how coaches talk about officiating in a series, especially a playoff series. But I feel like you're right. What the problem with this happened after Game 5 of the finals last year. She was, she might have been right about that call that kind of cost them the game. But when you're constantly doing this and only when you lose, that's a problem. And I think I agree. He was a Hall of Fame coach. I spent 10 minutes on my last episode talking about her legacy and how it wasn't tarnished no matter what happened. And she's one of the greatest coaches in the last 30 years in pro basketball. But yeah, this is not good. I don't think there's any way to slice it. And I think she's got to figure that part out. I think ultimately what was the frustrating part for her was they were blowing leads and they couldn't figure it out, and they couldn't stop them. They couldn't get any offense going. They were out of sync, and yeah, they just fell apart. So tough way to end for a great season. I mean, number 1 overall seed, home court advantage. They had 34 wins, awesome season for them, but it just sucks. Like you said, they're joining the parade of Minnesota teams. They got their 4 championships already, though. So I don't know if they're quite on the.
No team is safe here.
No team.
Yeah. No lead is safe. No team is safe.
Yeah. All right. So end of the season comes. Nafisa Collier has a statement today or yesterday. I'm sorry. We're recording on Wednesday. This was on Tuesday. She had some pretty pointed comments. She basically talked about a private conversation that she had with the commissioner of the league. And from what I've seen, most players are kind of backing her, but they're going through some collective bargaining stuff. I think the current agreement's up at the end of this month. So there's a lot of things in play, but what did you make of her comments today and how it pertains to the WNBA?
Same kind of feeling. Awkward timing when I think she even starts by congratulating the Mercury, and it's just doesn't quite, but maybe that's because of the collective bargaining. Maybe they kind of feel like they got to do this, get this all out now. I don't follow it super duper closely, but it sounds like that was maybe going to happen anyway. So I'm not really sure what the strategy is, other than just, again, I guess just making sure it's very clear that they don't like the people that are in charge now. So
yeah,
we'll see what they do.
I did hear somebody today talking about a smart part of her comment was bringing in Caitlin Clark, because it, and the way this was framed, it does make it sound like this was almost more strategic. She talked, the point was that by naming Caitlin Clark, you kind of put her in the spot where, like, hey, you basically said, the commissioner, she basically said to Collier apparently that Caitlin Clark wouldn't be making anything without the visibility of the WNBA, which is a pretty aggressive statement considering that everyone knew Clark from college. So whether before she got to the NBA, she was making all this money on endorsements. So it's almost like there's this big rift between the players and league, which obviously is kind of what the agreement is about. But it felt like all the players are kind of on board with Collier's said. I didn't read anybody's instas or tweets or anything about like, whoa, like back out, like that's too aggressive. Like it just seems to me that they feel like they're growing the game a lot. Clark, Beckers, Asia Wilson, Collier, all the stars, and they're just not on the same page. Which we might have our first stoppage. If you really want to be like, play like the NBA or MLB, and we got a work stoppage, we got strikes, we got lockouts. Like, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, right? Like, there's pieces of all of this. But I think they'd be silly to not capitalize on the popularity. Whether you like Caitlin Clark or not, whatever you want to argue, the WNBA was popular before, that's fine. But it's definitely changed since she's come in, along with your other young stars.
Mm-hmm.
And he got an opportunity to grab some more market share. It would make sense to me that, yeah, the players, I think I saw Cunningham, I think she had somewhere that was agreeing to all of it. So it sounds like the players are kind of coming together in what they want. So I think they got to be smart here, because I think they have something.
The season for the Lynx, I enjoyed watching them. Like you said, like growing the game. I've watched more Lynx games than I had in the past, the last couple of years, and so it's fun to watch. It's a good. They're putting they got some intriguing players, more markets. They just got to figure this stuff out. But I'll be curious to see how the Lynx respond. Stings for a lot of Lynx fans and for. All right, next let's talk about the NBA. They opened training camps this week. Media day for the Timberwolves was on Monday. A lot of interesting moves this offseason for the teams in the West, but also some interesting moves in the East, and big injuries over there as well. So first, I want to talk Tate. Let's discuss which team in each conference is facing the most pressure this season. We'll start with the West. Let's start with the Timberwolves. First of all, back-to-back Western Conference. They're running it back for the most part. They lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker. There's all these rumors of Ant's new post or mid-post game, trying to emulate Jordan and Kobe and all this stuff. Is that enough? And how much pressure do you think the Wolves are facing this year after back-to-back Western Conference?
Edwards coming up with some fadeaway jumper is not enough. In my opinion, the Wolves' biggest area of opportunity are the younger guys who should, especially now that Na is gone, should play more, like Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. Like, I think we kind of know what we got in the other guys. I guess Julius Randle is kind of a frustrating player to be a fan of. He has these stretches where he's just elite, and you're like, all right, this guy's great. But then a few of those playoff games, he disappeared, or he just has those moments where he doesn't seem to be completely engaged and can just disappear on you, and that's troublesome.
Yeah.
But I think for the Wolves, it's going to come down to, are these draft picks that we've had over the last 2-3 years going to turn into something and help us keep going? I think that's the biggest thing for the Wolves.
Yeah, I think like there's a little bit of pressure on them right now because they've kind of hit this wall. They've hit this like Western Conference, couldn't handle the Mavs and Luka. Kind of got owned. I mean, both of them were 4-1, right? Like they weren't even really that competitive in those series. So you kind of get to this point where you're like, is this all we are? Is this all we got? And so when they run it back with basically the same roster, you're right. They're hoping for improvement. They're hoping that Ant gets better. Probably Jaden McDaniels gets a little bit better. But I think one of the things that the Wolves was so intriguing about them 2 years ago was the defensive intensity in which they played. And last year they were good, but they weren't elite defensively. And so I'm curious to see, and I listened to Dane Moore's podcast today, Britt Robson, Kyle Teige. Those guys are fantastic. If you like the Wolves, listen to them. But they were talking about the defense, and I kind of look at the Wolves as like, I think their best defense might be Jaden, not their best, sorry. When Rudy is off the floor and you have Nas in at the 5, I think Jaden at the 4 makes a ton of sense. And I would love to see them fly around. Jalen Clark, even like you said, Dillingham, he's not gonna be great in like one-on-one against these bigger guards. He's just too little. But what he can do is run. He is fast, he is quick, he's got good hands. So I would love to see them. That clip of the Wolves when they were playing the Nuggets, and I think it was Kevin Harlan says they got Murray in a straitjacket, right? Like that embodied that team 2 years ago. If they can get back to that, they got something. But I agree. Like Ant alone, I mean, he did a lot of good things last year. He moved the ball when he should move the ball. He got doubled. He got off. He got off the ball. But they got to figure something else out. I'll be curious to see if Shannon Jr. can fill Nas' spot effectively. He's a little bit different player, but he's not quite as intense on the ball. He's probably not going to be on the point of attack, but he is a big, athletic, fast dude. So I want to see them run more. I don't know if that's enough to beat OKC, but I feel like they're going to feel some pressure this year come playoff time because they've kind of hit a wall in their playoff performances.
They do, yeah. And our GM, though, has definitely shown he's not afraid to obviously make the moves, too. So that could be another little intriguing. See what kind of start they get off to. And then, obviously, then health will play into that as well because we traded for DiVincenzo and Randall, and they both missed, at least 10, maybe 20 games. And that then obviously is going to put the pressure on those young guys that you drafted to play even more. So if they can get off to a good start, that will help. But if they don't, I'd be curious to see what they think they can do to shake things up. Because, you can't go backwards now. You got one of the best players in the league in Ant, so you got to take advantage of him in his prime.
Yeah. You mentioned something there about getting off to a hot start. I think, and even at the press conferences at Media Day on Monday, there was multiple players that talked about that being different than last year, where they brought in Julius and DiVincenzo like a couple weeks before the season started. And so this year they have more cohesion. They should hit the ground running faster than some of these teams that we'll talk about here in a second. But, if they can get off to a good start, what is that? Is it 10-2 out of the gate? Is it whatever that looks like? But they should. I know they feel like they are. I think Dillingham, after being out at Summer League, he was the guy I was probably most interested in watching, but also came home thinking, man, I don't know. I just don't know if he's got the body and, the physicality to play. So we'll see. I hope so. But
well, and you mentioned 10-2. That's going to be tough. I hopped and just took a quick peek at the schedule.
Oh yeah, they open with
we got Lakers,
yeah.
Pacers, Denver, Lakers again. The Knicks are in there, Sacramento. So yeah, you're gonna play some playoff teams and even a team that made it to the finals in the Pacers right away. So
yeah,
we'll get a good idea of what they got.
If you're serious, though, and you are stinging from this second straight Western Conference final debacle, you come out ready to go. And these are the teams you want to beat in the playoffs. You beat them again. Like the Lakers, they didn't have any trouble with last year. Now Luka's lost 460 pounds. So that might be different. But I think, if they're serious, they come out ready to go and they make a statement early that they're back and they're ready for another run. So we'll see. Rockets. Let's talk about the Rockets. I don't know how much pressure they have on them, but you trade for Kevin Durant, you have big dreams. So they trade Durant for Jalen Green. Fred VanVleet is now hurt. Amen Thompson took big steps. He got lots of hype during the season. I'm still not 100% sold on the Rockets. Like, I don't know that Durant being your second best scorer at this stage of his career, or maybe their best scorer over Sengun. I don't know. I'm still thinking Rockets are in that 4 or 5 range. I don't know that they're quite ready to make the big push that some might have on the Rockets.
Went to Golden State and won. So
that was 10 years ago almost, though.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah, at where he's at now, I'm not sure that that's going to unlock that team all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of young guys that appear to be very talented. So, if they can improve even a little bit, they're going to be good.
Yeah.
All the teams in the West are asking themselves, how do we match up against Oklahoma City? So,
yeah.
They clearly thought that, I guess, Durant was going to do that for them.
Yeah.
But I'm like you. I don't he's going to be like 38 this year, 39.
Yeah. 38, yeah.
He'll be 38. But we'll see.
Yep.
Losing your point guard is not good. Speaking of trades, I would be curious to see what they do early on, if they start slow or clearly need a point guard.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one...
they would make moves again to try to keep going.
The only other, who's intriguing, probably not a true point guard, but man, that guy can score. So you put Reed Shepherd in maybe with Amen Thompson, Jamari Smith, Sengun, and Durant like that. That's pretty.
Well, they got a guy on the roster whose last name is Tate, so I might be a Rockets guy.
I'll get you that jersey for sure. All right, so let's talk about. You mentioned matching up with the Thunder. I thought, and I said this on my last podcast, or maybe it was the first one. I don't know. I don't remember. They all run together. There's so many of them at this point. But the Nuggets, man, they pushed the Thunder as hard as anybody, except for maybe the Pacers. They add Cam Johnson, a shooter, wing shooter. They add Bruce Brown. They add Hardaway Jr. They add Jonas Valanciunas to back up Jokic. They lose Michael Porter Jr., who I think is basically replaced by Cam Johnson, Reggie Jackson, and KCP, who, Bruce Brown is a great wing defender, guard defender. I mean, you put those kind of shooters around Jokic along with Murray and Christian Brown, like, I think the Nuggets, to me, are the second best team in the West. Like, they and Ant even on media day called out Denver because somebody asked him about the Thunder, and he's like, "Man, the West is loaded. Like, Denver's really good." So I think Denver's, on paper, at least from right now, I would say Denver's the second best.
Yeah, and I took a peek at this roster too. Tim Hardaway Jr. is the oldest guy now at 33. So you got a guy like Jokic, who's a perennial MVP candidate, can do it all. Again, they're a team that if Jamal Murray stays healthy, he's excellent. And then, they got a bunch of young guys now too.
Yep.
They're going to be a problem for sure.
Yeah, Julian Strawther, didn't even mention him. I mean, yeah. Quick shout out, CDH, Cretin-Durham Hall, where your brother works. Curtis Jones on the roster for the Denver Nuggets, former Cretin-Durham Hall star, played at Iowa State.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Raider
Nation, represent. Okay, let's talk about Clippers. This whole Kawhi Leonard, Steve Ballmer fiasco is super entertaining. I don't know where it's going. I'm not going to pretend to know. What I do know is the Clippers they have to be the oldest team in the NBA. I mean, my God, you got Chris Paul, Bradley Beal, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Dunn is 31 years old, Bogdanovich is 33 years old. Batum, Brooke Lopez is 37, John Collins is even 28 at this point. Zubac is 28. Their young guys are 28. So I don't know. I feel like I heard. I thought it was Ringer guy talking about the Clippers and thinking they were really good. I can't see it. These guys, they're gonna get hurt. I don't know, man. I don't see the Clippers really being in the top 4 or 5. Maybe they're a 6-7 seed somewhere in there, but man, that is for the modern NBA and the speed and like the Thunder play at, and the Spurs are going to play at, and the Rockets. I just don't see how the Clippers can hang. They might get their wins, but
they're a couple of injuries away from being in real trouble.
Yeah,
and you don't want that. Who's the reporter that's been like digging super deep into that Kawhi Leonard thing?
Pablo Torres.
You don't want that guy in your business. Oh man,
that's dicey. If they don't get the Timberwolves Joe Smith treatment, something's seriously wrong. Because I mean, they I feel like
somebody's getting in trouble. It's just maybe that's what they're figuring out. It's like this. Who's the Chris Carter fall guy here? Somebody's going down. Yeah, you're right. I don't know how they're, with their best players aging, going to keep up. And again, 1 or 2 of those guys go down, and it seems like they usually do. I'm not enamored with this roster.
No, I'm not either. Let's talk about the champs, the Thunder. Do you feel like, I mean, they're basically running it back too. They got Shea, they re-signed Shea and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. Extended, I should say. They still got Hartenstein. They still have Case and Wallace. They have Caruso off the bench, which, by the way, side note, would love to see Jalen Clark be the Timberwolves version of Alex Caruso at some point. They still got Lou Dort. So do you think, if you're the Thunder, is there any pressure to repeat because you got this whole team back? Or do you feel like, hey, we're playing with house money? I mean, the window's closed quick.
I guess when I think about it, it's more like now that you've proven it and you're at the top, you're the champs, you're going to get everybody's best every night. So what was their record last year? They had
it was like 68
wins.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be trickier because every building you go into, the home teams are going to just be that extra little bit amped up.
Yeah. I mean,
so, the great teams handle that. We'll see if they can. It feels like they probably should. But it can be different spot, right? When you're the defendant, you're the champ. So
yeah, yep. Yeah, they're
coming for you.
They're interesting. Like they're young enough where like you really feel dynasty, but the NBA the last 5-6 years, we thought that about the Suns. We thought that about the Nuggets. We thought that about the Bucks even. And so it's tricky to repeat. So I mean, I don't know. They're definitely the class of the league. They had one of the statistically greatest seasons in the history of the NBA. So I don't know if that's repeatable, but they're certainly they're there until someone can beat them.
Yeah, just as I feel like any of their players are like cool, like super fun to watch.
You don't like those Chet and Shea commercials?
Oh man, those are
cringe.
Cool. And I don't know. I'm looking at this one too, like, man, they don't have any cool players.
Yeah, I know.
They're all good, and but I don't know. I'm not just like, oh, great, I get to watch Lou Dort tonight.
Yeah, but I mean that's what makes them so tough. Like they just kind of lunch pail it up. They just do their thing. They're just Shea's not flashy like Ant, but man, he's got a go-to move. He can get to his spot. I thought that was the biggest difference in that series was Shea got to his spot whenever he wanted. He could get to that elbow, and he was in complete control. And Ant couldn't. And that's why, going back to what we talked about earlier, I think that's why Ant is looking for that, because he needs that move that he can get to anytime, not just when it's easy. At the end of a game, fourth quarter, playoffs, I got to have a spot.
Well, and that would be great because Ant is an awesomely cool guy. Like,
right.
He's one of those superstar guys. You're like, oh yeah, I want to watch this. So
yeah,
that would be great. But the Thunder are very good and boring.
Agree.
In my opinion.
Which makes it a frustrating champ. But I mean, it's almost more frustrating because you just feel like they're going to do it again because they're just so. East. Let's talk Cleveland. So they were the top seed last year, but they flamed out in the playoffs pretty quick. They had some injuries. They get a full season with DeAndre Hunter. They return most of their roster. When Donovan Mitchell is your best player, I tend to not be overly optimistic about you winning a championship. So I don't know if you have a strong opinion on Cleveland, but I just don't. I don't see them coming out of the East again.
Well, I feel like for them, you got to quit being terrible in the playoffs. Like, this seems like
it's a good strategy.
Team that they had a really good regular season, and then they get in the playoffs and they lose.
Yeah, I mean, they had some injuries to deal with. I think they had a game or two where was Mitchell out a game, and Mobley might have been out a game, so they were under the gun a little bit, but. I mean, yeah, Donovan Mitchell's history in Utah isn't great either. So even when he was with Rudy, he had a great rim protector there. He's got great rim protectors in Cleveland now. And, so we'll see. I don't know that I don't have big opinions on Cleveland coming out of the East. I think there's other teams, like the Bucks, for instance. I'm intrigued by the Bucks and the Knicks probably are my two that I'm like, hey, they got veterans who've gone a long way. They've won a ton of playoff games. They have veteran coaches. So like the Bucks get Miles Turner from Indiana. They add Jericho Sims, another Twin Cities kid, for rim protection to help Giannis. They have Gary Trent, Gary Harris, Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma, Amir Coffey. The only thing I question about the Bucks is their point guard play. They're handing the reins to Kevin Porter Jr. I don't know. I feel like this year is like the East is just wild, wild west because Tatum's hurt in Boston and Halliburton's hurt in Indiana. So it's going to be it's. Think about Mike Brown as coach of the Knicks. They fired Thibodeau. They hire Mike Brown, which, first of all, I don't know what Tibbs does that just pisses everybody off, but it's wild because he is so good. He is such a good coach, and he gets fired everywhere he goes, even when they're winning.
But we kind of know, right?
Well, I know why, but
and he's super like old school, my way or the highway. Just I think as generation gets older, like the younger guy, he just can't connect. He's just an old surly bastard.
But why does he keep getting jobs then? You know, like people obviously interview him and they know this about him. The Knicks knew that about him when they hired him.
Yeah.
He turns them around, gets them to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? I think. Right. They got a great I love their team. Like Brunson, Cat, Hart, OG. They bring in Brogdon. They have Clarkson off the bench for some scoring. But now you got a new coach, which, you know, Mike Brown's been there too. But I mean,
maybe Tibbs should be like a special assistant.
Yeah, that's me.
You have your coach who's more like player friendly and is good with the media and the fans.
That's not Tibbs.
When they get in the gym, they close the door and they go, "All right, Tibbs, you run this practice."
I love it.
Maybe that should be his job.
Yeah.
You know, and I was saying, like, maybe the Timberwolves should do that.
That sounds like a Trojan horse coaching scenario.
Right. Yeah. Just let Mike Brown do all the talking, and he can stand up during the games. But yeah, when it's time to practice, Tibbs runs the practice.
I love it.
Both the Knicks and the Bucks will be fun to root. They, like I said, they're the opposite. They have cool players. And the Knicks that score. Brunson, that dude's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like they'll be easy to get behind in the East if they are good and trying hard. Yeah,
Detroit's another one, I think, just because they've struggled for a while and now they kind of got the young core with Cunningham and those guys. So, like, I mean, I'm interested to see if they make another jump or if they kind of go back. Obviously, injuries play a huge part in that, but the other one I had written down was the 76ers because I can't figure that team out, man. Like, outside of Edgecombe and Maxey, they're the Clippers. They are so old. You know, they brought in Paul George. They got some old dudes on that team too. So the Sixers they're kind of a mess as well. I don't know what to think about them, but you know, if Embiid was going to have a year, it's like this is kind of a year where the Celtics are down. The defending Eastern Conference champs are going to be hobbled with Halliburton out, but the Sixers are another. They're to me, they're the Clippers. They're basically the same.
One really bad media day where somebody goes off about something, and then it's like, oh, this is dysfunctional.
And then Embiid sits out the rest of the year, and you're back in the lottery. So
right, yeah. He's like, my knee's sore.
Yeah.
I'll call you when I'm ready to come back.
Yeah. A couple of things. I want to talk about some over-unders just because I think these are really interesting to me. First of all, Boston.
Oh, finally, the gambling segment.
Yeah. I need a disclaimer. This is not advice. This is not financial advice. This is just for entertainment purposes. Boston. So I saw somewhere between 41.5, 42.5 wins. So let's call it 42. So they had 61 wins last year. They lost Tatum. I mean, they still have Jaylen Brown. They did lose Horford. They have Peyton Pritchard still. The reason I bring up Boston's 41.5 is because the Pacers don't have Halliburton, and they only dropped by 11. Their over-under's 38.5, so they won 50 games. So that difference is 11.5. So there's a bigger drop for the Celtics than the Pacers, which I thought was kind of an interesting when you take those two superstars out. So, I mean, if it were me, I would be on top of Boston. I don't think they're gonna. I think they won't be as good, obviously, but I think they're a playoff team in the East.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some statistical things that would show that losing Tatum, is that really going to cost you 20 wins?
Yeah.
That seems like an awful lot to think that they could fall off of.
Yeah.
And when you're in the East still seems to perennially have like the two worst teams in the league.
Right.
So when you get to play those teams those couple extra times, that maybe, I feel like you get a couple of those wins back.
Right.
When you get to keep playing Charlotte and
Brooklyn. Washington. Washington's over under was 21 and a half. Yeah. That should be like 6-8 wins. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so basically you're asking me if I would say that the Celtics would finish above 500, I would do that.
Yeah. And so the Pacers too. Pacers 38 and a half is their over under. The Pacers have still 7 of the top 9 players from their team last year. They lost obviously Miles Turner, and Halliburton right now is hurt. They have everyone else back. And that includes Siakam, Nemhard, Nesmith, Maturin, who's probably going to start now, right? Like, again, in the East, that's a playoff team, in my opinion. Like, I don't really get that number either.
Yeah, that's even worse. But 38, that's, less than 500, finish less than 500.
Yeah, yeah. TJ McConnell.
Losing your best player is hard to overcome, but I think they also gained a ton of valuable experience making a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
So I guess, unless they decide like, we don't have our guy, so we're just going to coast.
Right.
I think that's another one that, are they going to finish about 500 or maybe slightly under? I would take that one too.
Yeah. I mean, Obi Toppin, another name. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like those numbers are big changes from teams that have championship pedigree and still have really good players. So those were interesting to me. Another one I wanted to talk about was Orlando. Orlando adds Trey Jones. So he's local Apple Valley graduate, Duke guy. Orlando's over under 51 and a half. I know they made big progress last year. They improved a ton. 51 and a half wins. That gets you in the probably top 3 or 4 in the East. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's needy.
Desmond Bain as well. They drafted Jace Richardson, so they got Suggs, Tyus Jones, Anthony Black, Paulo. Obviously, they're projecting like, I mean, the Wagner boys they always tear it up in Europe, in these European and international tournaments. But I know Franz Wagner is another. I mean, he averaged 24 points a game, so he's only 24 years old. I mean,
is Suggs going to be back right away? Is he still dealing with? I don't remember what his injury was. I think it was pretty bad.
Was it? Okay. I haven't heard recently on his status, but
okay.
Looks like he's still hurt entering camp, but he'll be back sometime this year.
Yeah, see that one, just talking about briefly. So you're asking me, would they be
51 and a half,
52 and 30?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's another big jump.
That one feels a little more, maybe not quite that high.
They won 41 games last year. Can they add 10 or 11 more?
10-win jump, you're asking a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That would be another, when this podcast gets real big and we have a stats person, they can look that up for us.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time a team gained, or, how often do teams gain over 10 wins from the previous season? I bet it's That seems hard to do.
Yeah. Okay, so another one for you, which I think this one's more likely. San Antonio Spurs Davey. They had 34 wins last year. They're projected for 43.5 based on the MGM Sportsbook. So that's a 10 win improvement. However, Dylan Harper added to the mix with Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. I mean, I like the Spurs. I like them a lot. I think they are going to be in the mix to be not in the play-in, so top 6 basically. I could see them being like 6, 7, somewhere in there in the West.
Yeah, and they have cool players. Wemby,
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox is cool. They have that pedigree that cheering for those Spurs teams back in the day. Like, yeah, I agree. I think that's one where, if you ask me, they could win 10 more of that. It feels like that's right. And then, this is going to be Wemby year 3 or 4.
Oh, yeah, this is his third year. Yep.
Okay, third. Okay.
Big jump year for Wemby.
It's a big jump. Maybe it's too many, but he's going to be real good and is real good, and I think is just going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
And when he's in his prime, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I think that's why the Wolves got to strike here in the next few years with Ant.
Yeah.
Because there's some good young players in the West.
Yeah. Speaking of the Wolves number I last saw was 50.5. Lakers, I see 47.5, but I had written down 49, so that might have moved. Lakers add DeAndre Ayton. Who do you think between the Wolves, Lakers, who finishes with a better record?
I would take the Wolves.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's a little
homer take.
The Lakers feel also a little dysfunctional. I don't know if they really like JJ Redick. Is that
didn't they just extend it? I swear they just extended him this week.
Yeah, well, I think he was in the news. I saw something his name, and I'm like, oh yeah. I don't know. They also just it feels messy.
Yeah.
Having to hang on to LeBron's kid sometimes, and I love LeBron James, but what is he, 40?
40, yep.
And yeah, but they got the bailout with the Luka trade, and I think maybe that's why I'm sour on them. I don't like that.
The way the Wolves dismantled them so easily, and their big move in the offseason was DeAndre Ayton and Luka losing weight. I don't know. I don't think that's enough to move them into that top. I don't think they're as good as Denver. You just said you're not as high on them as the Wolves. I would put, the Rockets probably above the Lakers. I don't know. They're going to be in the 5-6 matchup probably. The Warriors are still out there with Steph. So I don't know. The Lakers are interesting, but I agree. I would probably pick the Wolves to have a few more wins than the Lakers, but
they really should.
They should, right?
On paper, that Wolves roster is far superior, I think.
Yeah. All right. That does it for NBA talk this week. Next week we'll jump and do similar things into the college game, but yeah, that was fun. NBA season kicks off, I think, officially October 21st. So over these next couple of weeks, we'll have a few more nuggets, maybe talk some more in depth on the Wolves specifically. All right, last segment of today's show. Today we're going to take a little bit of a look into the college scene. The college teams are doing their practice. They start some exhibition games coming up here in about 2 weeks, actually. Gophers have an inter-squad scrimmage on October 11th. But first today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the local kids, local players playing across the country. By my count, there are 41 Division I teams with a player who played in or was born in Minnesota. So today I wanted to look at just the top 10. We're going to top the top 10 according to Bart Torvik. So we're ranking teams based on potential, returning players, projections, things like that. So I wanted to look at this, and the number one team on this list this year was actually Houston. Now you may be wondering who on Houston is from Minnesota. Well, it's a little bit of a fudge on my part, but I got Mercy Miller. Shouts to Master P. Mercy Miller played 2 seasons, I believe, at Minnehaha Academy. So Houston is the preseason number one ranked team, according to Bart Torvik. It's going to be tough to beat Kelvin Sampson's squad this year. So I got them number one in my list of top 10 teams with a Minnesota player. Number 2, this team is getting a ton of preseason hype. Michigan. Dusty May, second year. He's still got Will Cheddar. I don't know how he's like the new Evan Eschmeyer, if you're old enough to remember who that was. Or, Perry Ellis, I think at Kansas was that guy where they just felt like they were around forever. Michigan comes in actually on Bart Torvik at number 3 in the preseason rankings. Third team on my list, Louisville Cardinals. They have Javon Headley out of Cretin-Derham Hall, transferred from Colorado. They are ranked 16th in the Bart Torvik. So Louisville cracks the top 10 on the teams with a Minnesota player. Next, we got Ohio State. Tayson Chapman, former big recruit, was hurt most of last year. They are number 20th according to Torvik. The next team on the list, Iowa State. Nate Heisey from Lake City, Minnesota. They're chiming in. Creighton with Wayzata product Jackson McAndrew, who, according to head coach Greg McDermott, put on a lot of weight, muscle, verticals 4 inches higher than it was last year. So Jackson McAndrew could be a breakout star in the Big East this year. Texas Tech, I think I had previously mentioned, has Orono product Nolan Groves. They're coming at 27. Groves had committed to Yale, flipped his commitment to Texas Tech, and he'll be on the Red Raiders this year. Next up, we got Wisconsin. Wisconsin comes in at 29th in Torvik. They actually have 4 players from Minnesota, Nolan Winter and Jack Robinson from Lakeville, Jack Janicki from White Bear, and Braden Carrington, former Gopher, former Tulsa Hurricane, from Park Center. They come in at 29 in Torvik. And the last 2, Baylor. This was, again, a little bit of a stretch. Cameron Carr, born in Eden Prairie, son of former Timberwolves player Chris Carr. They chalk in at 34 in Torvik. And lastly, Maryland, another Big Ten school, Pharrell Payne from Cottage Grove, rounding out the top 10. So those are the top 10 preseason teams, according to Bart Torvik, with a Minnesota player on their roster. And just for what it's worth, the Gophers, number 84, and St. Thomas appears at number 133 in the preseason rank. Now, speaking of St. Thomas, I wanted to touch on them. I talked about them briefly last week, but there's been some really interesting pieces for Johnny Tower and the Tommies. This is their first year of eligibility in the NCAA tournament. And, I talked to an NDSU fan over the weekend, and he talked about how, this is St. Thomas's season. And it got me thinking about the 2008-2009 NDSU season when when it was their first year of eligibility, and Ben Woodside and Lucas Moorman and Brett Winkleman and those guys all had redshirted, so they could be ready for that season. They win the Summit League championship on a Woodside last-second shot, thrilling game. They go on to play Kansas at the Metrodome, lose by 10, and it was much closer than 10. Woodside scored 37 points in that game. It was just incredible, and that was kind of the coming out party for NDSU in basketball. Now, I looked at St. Thomas's roster, not quite as senior heavy as that NDSU team. However, a lot of redshirt years. So a lot of guys who've been in the program multiple seasons. Not a ton of seniors on this team. Ryan Default from Waseca, Minnesota, gritty, tough point guard. He is the lone contributing senior on this year's St. Thomas team. But they got a lot of interesting pieces. They got 2 guys from Wayzata, Hayden Tibbetts, who redshirt sophomore, a little bit undersized, 5'11", but might be a ball handling backup point guard. Carter Bierke, stretch 4. He's a redshirt junior. And then also 2 players from Totino Grace, Isaiah Johnson Arrigu, who I mentioned last time. And they got Tommy Humphreys Jr., who transferred, I believe, from Furman or Fordham, one of those F schools. He's a redshirt sophomore as well. So you got a couple, 4 guys between Wayzata and Totino Grace. A couple other interesting names on the roster here for St. Thomas. Austin Hero. Yes, Tyler Hero's brother. He's coming in. He is a sophomore as well. Luka Momcilovic, whose brother is at Iowa State. He's a freshman from Wisconsin. He's going to be a big-time contributor down the road, maybe even this year. St. Thomas does have kind of a tradition going of freshman breakout scorers. Last year, that player was Nolan Minnesali, 6'5" sophomore guard. This year, he was one of the better players in the Summit League. So 9 players on the roster are sophomores. Lone senior who's contributed in the past was Ryan Dufault. But this team, by all accounts, is ready for their chance at the NCAA tournament. Now, there becomes a lot of pressure on a team when you redshirt guys and you kind of build up for this moment, right? Like, they didn't have this opportunity last year. They lose the Summit League championship game to Omaha. But it was not easy for Woodside and that NDSU team. Even though they went 16-2 through the regular season in the Summit League, they really battled to get into that conference championship game and win that conference championship game. So Tower has coached big games throughout his career. He's had great teams with high expectations. They've won D3 championships. I expect them to handle this season well, but their non-conference is going to prepare them as well. They actually open at St. Mary's in California this year, which is a perennial NCAA tournament team. So it's going to be a super fun season for them. They got a brand new arena, the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. So they're opening this new arena. They're eligible for the NCAA tournament. A lot of expectations, a lot of hype. Will be interesting to see how they handle it, see how things go throughout the season. Obviously, they're hoping by the time March rolls around, they are ready and to take that Summit League title down in Sioux Falls. All right, that's a wrap for the Splash City Basketball Podcast, Episode 3. Thanks to Tate for showing up. Appreciate his insights and laughs. Today we covered the collapse of the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA playoffs. We talked about NBA training camp and some of the biggest stories and odds and win totals that we expect to see this year in the NBA. And then we finished with a few nuggets around the Summit League and just some of the top 10 teams in the country this year with Minnesota ties. So it's been a fun couple days as NBA training camp opens. College teams are starting to prepare. The next episode will definitely be breaking down more college basketball, some rule changes. So NCAA allows for 2 exhibition games against any 4-year school. They allowed for preseason practice scrimmages could be in public now. So NDSU, UND come to Minnesota for games on October 16th and the 25th. So that'll be our first taste of Division I men's basketball here in the Twin Cities. And then, like I mentioned, go for inter-squad scrimmage. A lot of changing pieces, musical chairs over in Dinkytown. Nico Medved's squad gets to show off to the public, and we get to see what they're going to bring to the Big Ten this year, and that's October 11th. So before you go, if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it here with your basketball friends. Leave a review. Follow us on Instagram at Splash City Podcast. Appreciate you. Thanks for listening. This is the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Back in that bag again.